Okay, welcome back to Jay's Retro Toys and Games, the home for all things nostalgic, where the golden age of gaming comes alive once again. This documentary takes a deep dive into one of the most fascinating, underrated, and technically intriguing accessories from the Nintendo Entertainment System era, the NES Hyper Variable Speed Controller. Now, this wasn't just another third-party controller. It was a bold experiment in giving players more control, more precision, and more power over their gameplay. And it represented a time when innovation was driven by imagination, and when every new accessory promised to change the way games were played forever. But before diving into the story, a special shout out goes to SusanFit47, an incredible YouTube creator who continues to inspire the retro gaming community with energy, positivity, and a shared love for classic consoles. So be sure to check out her channel for more great content celebrating the games and gadgets that define a generation. It's the Retro Hyper Variable Speed Controller. The NES has an interesting controller right now going on. Episode number 110 is ready to go right now. And welcome to episode number 110 on this March 24th, 2026. And I'm your host, Jason DeCanio, for another edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Cruising at the end of March here, getting real close to Easter. And we've got another interesting NES accessory for you. In fact, who we just mentioned before we went to the opening intro, this channel basically has given us at least 50, maybe 100 more NES accessories that we have not even touched, nor did I even think there was existence on them. So, we'll mention, of course, her name at the end of the program as well, if you didn't catch it before. But when I looked at her comments, or the comments that, and the amount of accessories that we haven't even scratched the surface on, yeah, this is going to make for some very interesting episodes here on this edition. Probably will take us into Season 5 as well next fall. But in the meantime, we'll cover every one of them that this channel has given to us as suggestions. And that's what we want from you, is for you to give suggestions to me and to make the channel worthwhile, so that way we can cover every single accessory or something that's part of the video game experience. And so here we go with a very interesting look at an underrated controller, as they said before, the NES Hyper Variable Speed Controller. So to understand the significance of the Hyper Variable Speed Controller, it's important to first revisit the world it was born into. The mid to late 1980s marked a turning point in gaming history. After the video game crash of 1983, the industry was struggling to rebuild trust with consumers. And then came Nintendo, with its sleek gray box. The Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, released in North America in 1985, it reignited the public's love for video games and set new standards for quality, creativity, and fun. The NES wasn't just a console, it was a cultural phenomenon. Games like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and Metroid became household names, but as the library of games grew, so did the demand for accessories that could enhance the experience. Players wanted more control, faster response times, and tools that could help them conquer the toughest challenges. This demand opened the door for a wave of third-party innovation, and among the many accessories that emerged, one stood out for its unique approach to gameplay customization, the Hyper Variable Speed Control. Now, this controller was developed during a time when third-party accessory makers were experimenting with new ways to improve the NES experience. Companies like Bishu, Hori, and Quickshot were already producing turbo controllers, but the hyper-variable speed controller took things a step further. Instead of offering a fixed turbo rate, it introduced a variable speed dial, allowing players to fine-tune the rate of rapid-fire button presses. This innovation was groundbreaking. For the first time, players could adjust how quickly their controller would send repeated inputs to the console. Whether playing a fast-paced shooter or a slower, more strategic game, the hyper-variable speed controller gave players the flexibility to adapt their controls to the situation. It was a small change that made a big difference, especially in games that required precision timing or rapid attacks. The controller's design reflected the futuristic aesthetic of the late 1980s. It featured sharp angles, bold labeling, and a prominent speed adjustment knob that gave it a high-tech, almost sci-fi appearance. It looked like something out of a spaceship cockpit, perfect for the era's fascination with technology and innovation. The NES Hyper-Variable Speed Control retained the familiar layout of the standard NES controller with a directional pad, A and B buttons, and start and select buttons. However, its build, quality, and additional features set it apart. The most distinct development was the variable speed dial, which allowed players to control the rate of automatic button presses. Turning the dial clockwise increased the speed, while turning it counterclockwise slowed it down. And this gave players unprecedented control over their gameplay experience. Some versions of the controller also included ergonomic grips, longer cords, and even additional switches for toggling turbo functions on and off. And these improvements addressed common complaints about the original NES controller, which many players found too small and uncomfortable for long gaming sessions. The hyper-variable speed controller's design was both functional and stylish, appealing to gamers who wanted performance and comfort in one package. Internally, the controller used a simple but effective circuit to generate rapid pulses when the turbo function was activated. The variable resistor connected to the speed dial allowed players to adjust the frequency of these pulses, effectively changing how fast the controller pressed the button for them. It was a clever piece of engineering that combined analog control with digital precision. The impact of the hyper-variable speed controller was most evident in action and shooter games. Titles like Contra, Gradius, Life Force, and Mega Man 2 benefited immensely from the ability to fire rapidly without constant button mashing. Players could now focus on dodging enemies, navigating levels, and strategizing their movements instead of wearing out their thumbs. In Gradius, for example, the controller allowed players to maintain a steady stream of firepower, making it easier to take down waves of enemies. In Contra, it gave players a fighting chance against the game's relentless difficulty. And in Mega Man 2, it made boss battles smoother and more manageable. The adjustable speed dial meant that players could experiment with different settings to find the perfect rhythm for each game. Beyond shooters, the controller also found use in other games or in other genres. In sports games, it could speed up repetitive actions like swinging a bat or throwing punches. In platformers, it could help with rapid jumps or attacks. And the versatility of the hyper-variable speed controller made it a valuable tool for players who wanted to push their skills to the limit. But as gaming communities began to form around the NES, competition became a major part of the culture. Whether it was high-score contests, speed runs, or friendly neighborhood tournaments, players were always looking for ways to gain an advantage. The hyper-variable speed controller became a secret weapon for many of these players. Its ability to fine-tune input speed allowed for more consistent performance, especially in games that required precise timing. However, not everyone embraced it. Some purists argued that using turbo controllers was a form of cheating, as it gave players an artificial advantage. Others saw it as a legitimate tool, an extension of a skill rather than a replacement for it. This debate mirrored large discussions in gaming about fairness, accessibility, and the role of technology in competition. And regardless of where players stood, there was no denying that the hyper-variable speed controller had changed the landscape of NES gaming. And although this controller never achieved the same level of fame as Nintendo's official accessories, its influence can still be felt today. The concept of adjustable input speed paved the way for modern controllers with programmable buttons, customizable sensitivity settings, and advanced turbo functions. And many of the features that gamers now take for granted, such as remappable controls and adjustable triggers, can trace their roots back to innovations like the hyper-variable speed controller. Collectors and retro gaming enthusiasts now view the controller as a prized piece of history. Finding one in good condition is increasingly rare, but for those who do, it's a tangible reminder of a time when gaming was defined by experimentation and creativity. The controller's unique design, combined with its technical ingenuity, makes it a standout item for any collection. In the world of retro gaming, the hyper-variable speed controller occupies a special place. It's not just a functional accessory, it's a conversation piece, a symbol of the 1980s gaming culture. Collectors appreciate its distinctive look, its mechanical feel, and the nostalgia it evokes. And some even restore and modify these controllers, adding modern components while preserving their original charm. The controller's rarity has also made it a sought-after item on the collector's market. Prices vary depending on condition and packaging, but boxed versions can fetch impressive sums. For many collectors, owning a hyper-variable speed controller isn't just about playing games, it's about preserving a piece of gaming history. The story of the hyper-variable speed controller is also the story of the 1980s gaming revolution. It was a time when technology was advancing rapidly, and creativity seemed limitless. Every new accessory promised to make gaming more exciting and more immersive and more personal. The hyper-variable speed controller embodied that spirit perfectly. It wasn't made by a massive corporation. It wasn't the product of passionate engineers and designers who wanted to give players something new. But that spirit of innovation continues to inspire today's gaming community and modern controllers. From pro esports gear to customizable handhelds, owe a debt to the pioneers of the NES era. The hyper-variable speed controller may not have been the most famous accessory, but it was one of the most forward-thinking. The NES hyper-variable speed control stands as a testament to the creativity, ambition, and technical ingenuity that defined the early days of console gaming, and it gave players control over their experience in a way that was ahead of its time, blending analog precision with digital performance. And though it may not have been a household name, its legacy lives on in every modern controller that allows customization, comfort, and control. From its sleek design to its innovative features, the hyper-variable speed controller remains a symbol of what made the NES era so special, a time when imagination and technology came together to create unforgettable experiences. Thanks for watching this deep dive into gaming history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video from Jay's Retro Toys and Games. And once again, a big shout out to SusanFit47 for being part of the amazing retro gaming community. Stay tuned for more documentaries exploring the consoles, accessories, and games that shaped generations of players. And this Thursday, episode 111 continues on with another look at a fantastic NES accessory. Till then, I'm Jason DiCanio. Good night.